they started writing longer comments and whole stories. They'd take up a whole page, explaining what had happened. And at one point I went over there and somebody was sitting there reading the guest book. And I thought, well, I guess it is a book and it's getting kind of torn up. I need to make copies of it. So I made copies of it, and as I was reading it, I started thinking, I remember that night. I've got a picture from that night. And I just started putting it all together, and I transcribed everything so that you can read it. And then I added some of my own stories and turned it into an actual book.
Well, that's really cool because they're actual, stories, not just made up. I mean, these are from actual, visitors at the house.
People. Yes.
Yeah, that's what's cool about it. It's not that you've, imagined this stuff and you've made it up or whatever. This is actual cool guest stories, and that is really cool because, I mean, what if, say, the other locations, the big locations did that too? I mean, can you imagine the stories that come out of any haunted location? But
oh, yeah.
That town, Gainesville, has so many things in history, and I can't even keep up with all the Texas history because it's insane of all the things that have happened, but I know there were some hangings and things like that, and I know Kilgray's family is actually connected. Like, I think one of her ancestors was actually hung or did the hanging.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure which is. Yeah, so that's kind of a cool thing. And then, Tui Snyder will be there with us, too, so she's going to be telling us about all these cemeteries and stuff, because I know there's a really cool cemetery in Gainesville as well.
Huge cemetery.
And it'll blow your mind because of, it's almost overwhelming because I went to a military cemetery when we were in Pensacola, Florida at the naval base. And I stood there and, I mean, I just was overwhelmed with emotion because I just was like, God, I can't believe all those white, headstones. And then you go to a big, huge cemetery, like out with all that history, like from the 1800s, and you're just going, wow, if these graves could really all talk, the stories that they could tell, and it's just overwhelming. I couldn't be a psychic or a medium or whatever going out in there because, I'm sure the spirits are just like, oh, hey, let me tell you this, let me tell you that. But, the
I don't have that ability.
I know, me too. I'd be like, shut up, leave me alone. And then they'd put me in a funny farm because I'd have to be in a straitjacket. They think I was schizophrenic. But, the hangings and things like that, and then the big, huge cemetery that's there, and then we got the Santa Fe Depot, which I really don't know a whole lot about that, but I hear it's a really, really cool building, and I'm sure I'm sure. I mean, it's
an
a freaking
awesome
train
building,
depot.
And it has a little bit of a museum in it. It's not the museum, but it does have a few things from the museum displayed in it.
Okay.
Upstairs. I don't know if we're going to be allowed to go upstairs. I don't know what the arrangements are this weekend. But if you can go upstairs, you should. They have a couple of rooms set up the way they would have been in the 1800s.
Oh, cool.
These were rooms where people that worked on the railroad would stay, I think. I don't really know.
And that's so crazy. I'm going to go and try to do my best Johnny Zappis here, but those artifacts are going to be having some residual energy on them.
One would think
and they
so.
could be haunted.
One would think so.
So, and with, like I said, the history all around there, but let's get back to the books because, God, I'm ADD, but you got another book that I'm really interested in looking at. It is for children, so it's called Brandon's Ghost, The First Hunt. Can you tell us a little bit about that one? I know it's a children's book.
Well, that one came about when I realized that my grandson was afraid of ghosts. And I wanted to write a story for him that would help him not see them as threatening. Because kids get fed this line that every ghost out there is out to get you. They all have to be scary, spooky monsters. So I wrote this book. I mean, it's a little bit scary here and there. Obviously, Brandon's house is having some activity, and he's home by himself. Or at least he thinks it's activity. And I'm not going to give the whole book away.
Right, yeah.
Maybe
we don't want to do that.
I mean, but it turns into a ghost hunt. And he gets to find out in the end that not all ghosts are mean, and not all ghosts are out to hurt him, and not all ghosts are even ghosts. And some people are ghosts that you don't even realize.
That's true. You know, it's kind of weird because I, you know, we've heard about the parallel universe and all that theory about that, and it is kind of interesting that sometimes I wonder, are we not the ones that are dead and they think that we're ghosts? You know, do they peek in on us? And you know, it goes a little deep on that one, but I had this little section.
I've also had conversations with people at Hill House that weren't there.
Aha.
So what I'm saying is,
yeah,
it's
happened to the best of
it. They are.
That's true. I mean, you know, I thought my best friend was standing in the doorway, and he was actually upstairs and couldn't get downstairs. But I swore he was standing in the doorway, and I hollered at him, and he didn't answer me. And I went running after him, and there was nothing there. So I kind of know what you mean. It's kind of weird, but I have had that happen as well.
Now, you were talking about stories that are made up. Now, I am writing another book, and it is made up of ghost stories, short stories that are ghost stories.
Oh, okay.
And they're all based on things that have happened at Hill House Manor with a little bit added, you know, for story. But loosely based on incidents that have happened at Hill House or things that people have run into, you know, certain spirits they've run into at Hill House. So far, yeah, they're all based basically on Hill House.
Wow.
So this will probably be
stories.
Hill House Manor of the Ghosts or the Ghost Stories or something like that.
Wow.
But it's going to be good. And if you follow me on Facebook, every once in a while I put out there a thing, who's ready for a ghost story, and I publish one, and you can only see it if you comment on the post. And then I tag you, and you can read the ghost story. I'm looking for feedback. And then after a few days, I take it down.
Ah. All right.
Look for me on Facebook.
You better jump on those. Yeah, you better jump on those while she puts them up because they've got to be good. That place is consistently active. But I have this little section, our little question that I always ask my guests, and it's about different, you know, like different lines of things in the paranormal, like say reincarnation, or there's one thing that I, you know, since your book is trying to explain to children that not all, you know, spirits are bad. There's been a huge rise in the report of demonic activity in a lot of cases. Now, I kind of wanted your feedback on why you think there's such a spike in this, being all of this being flagged as demonic. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, they think it's demonic. So why do you think that is, and what's your thoughts on that?
I think that people get what they go looking for. I know that's how it is at Hill House. So that's one of the reasons that demon hunters aren't really invited in. Like we've had Richard Contreras there, and he's a demon hunter, and you know we've had other demon hunters, but they know when they walk in Hill House that that's not why they're there, and that's not what they're supposed to be looking for. I don't like to invite that kind of energy in, and I think that probably because of TV shows and movies about demonic things, people are looking for it, actively seeking it, and you get what you look for.
Yeah, and there was a discussion today on actually Bishop Long. You know, he has a demonology class and things like that, and I'm actually signed up for it, and I never had a clue. I'm so sheltered on all the demons and things like that, and there was a question posed. You know, do you think talking about the cases gives the evil entities more energy?
Absolutely.
And I think it does. And it is all about intention. To fear, we don't provoke. We have extreme respect for the spirits. We treat them as if they were one of our loved ones close to us. We don't go in there and yell at them. They're not deaf. They're not stupid. You know, and if someone came in my house and started screaming at me and demanding that I speak to them or do some kind of parlor trick or whatever, I would be like, screw you, you know, I ain't doing shit. You know, I'm going to sit here and watch you look stupid. But, you know, when it comes to thinking about it, I clear my mind, I meditate, I look for love and light, and I think that's why, knock on wood, that I haven't really ran into very nasty entities is because I don't give them thought. I don't give them energy. I don't even think them in my mind because I know that does feed them, and I don't do that. I very much, you know, they think that a lot of paranormal investigators are, you know, they're going to go to hell and they're Satan worshipers and whatever. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, you have no idea how spiritual we actually are. I mean, do you realize how much we actually pray and protect ourselves before, after, during sometimes? You know what I mean? They have such the wrong, you know, picture of us, you know?
Yes, it's true. It's true. And I hope we don't stir any of that up here this weekend.
No. We had
a crazy lady that used to stand out on the sidewalk just off the property line and yell at people on the porch. You're going to hell.
She yelled
at
me.
What you're doing in there. You're going to hell. You know,
she yelled at me, and she was telling me all these things, and my friend my friend Michelle, she goes, "Lady, you have no idea. We go with God." So, you know, and she never shut up. She didn't even listen. So then I started kind of being funny, and you know, she was reading off all this stuff, and I was just being funny and reading it back to her. But, you know, it was fun. But we had a good time after she went away and was quiet. She was just blowing us up when we first got there.
She hasn't shown up in a few years, so I'm knocking on wood as I say that.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, there was another thing that I did not know about you that when we were talking at the Supernatural Expo, which was extremely cool, that you've had a near-death experience. And funny thing is, Close to Death actually started off about near-death experiences, and I couldn't find hardly anybody to submit their, you know, stories and want to talk about them. They're like, yeah, and I was like, there's one here. And I was like, okay, we're just going to talk about anything and everything paranormal because Close to Death, that's what we are, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your near-death because that has always fascinated me and how it kind of picks up your abilities.
I've been hospitalized. They thought I had an ulcer, but it turned out it was something much more. And they had to do surgery, and something happened, and they had to do surgery again within 72 hours, which back then, I don't know about nowadays, but back then, you didn't put a patient under less than 72 hours after you just put them under. But it was that urgent that they did. They put me completely under like 2 days after the first surgery. Anyway, it was that surgery where I died on the table. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. I was suddenly aware of everything that was going on. And I hadn't been because I was under, but now I was. And it was like I was floating above the table. And I could see everybody scurrying around and, you know, a lot of excitement in the room. And what was bizarre was my reaction to it because I was like, that's interesting. I wasn't vested in the outcome in any way. Wake me up, don't wake me up, I don't care. And I just watching, you know, isn't that interesting? Huh. And then it was like I was floating higher, like I was up at the ceiling. And I could still, you know, I was still involved and I was still seeing what was going on. And I was still kind of, interesting. And then suddenly it wasn't like I was floating away. It was like my soul, my spirit, my me was getting bigger. because I was still right there, but I was also filling up the whole room. Then